TA skills. Ever spent a few days in a special school? If you have, providing it is not one with an archaic philosophy, you may have marvelled at the skills of most teaching staff. From specialist deaf, blind schools and autism schools to more general mild, severe or profound learning difficulties schools, the variety of skills your typical teaching assistant has is truly remarkable. If you've never been fortunate enough to see them in action, let me enlighten you. Without dwelling on the potentially high-pressure environments where educating and safeguarding some of the most vulnerable folk in society is paramount, or on the potential consequences of getting even some of the simpler things wrong, let us have a gander at the range of skills you will see across special schools. Firstly, teamwork. The communication between a familiar class team juggling numerous bits of medical and pupil-specific information at the same time as teaching is impressive. Before teaching can begin, depending the school or class, pupils may need hoisting out of wheelchairs onto mats or into specialist physiotherapy equipment. They may need a round on the trampoline for sensory needs or even medication. TAs will potentially train for all of this. Also consider any class of 10 pupils who may have 10 different conditions will certainly have 10 different personalities and sets of needs. TAs will be familiar with all of them, including the educational approaches that may be different for each pupil in class. You will see communication approaches we are all familiar with, such as British Sign Language, Makaton and Braille, but also ones we may be less familiar with, such as the use of body language, moon letters or visual symbol exchanges. TAs will pick these up, learning from pupils along the way until the point they can move between any communication method depending on who they are working with. Naturally, the practices in different special schools can differ greatly, but in some of the more general mild to profound learning difficulties school classrooms, you may find TAs moving from structured sensory play to telling a story using speech, Makaton and sensory cues. In addition to this, TAs will be familiar with a multitude of communicative and educational technologies and software. Something that underlies much of a TA's experience is the emotional and physical toll of working with multiple individuals with potentially concerning behaviours and/or medical conditions. While these are topics unto themselves, I have found that staff build personal shields supported by the community nature of special schools. Whether that toll comes from continued exposure to concerning behaviours or pupil illness and mortality, the ability for teaching staff to cope while employing all the aforementioned teaching skills and a high level of professional standards is remarkable. The role of a special school TA has evolved over the past 20 years from a carer's role to a teaching role that requires knowledge across different disciplines and a cool head. Perhaps a symptom of society, perhaps not, but this evolution has brought with it a younger, typically more educated and understandably less long-term TA. However, the changing face of TAs is for another day. Today is for admiration. Praise to both the older and newer TAs who, for a fraction of the money or recognition that they deserve, display an incredible amount of skill on a daily basis for the benefit of others.